Have you ever taken a second to really look around your workplace? Or maybe think back to your last soul-crushing trip to the DMV. Did you ever stop and wonder, why on earth is it set up this way? Why are there so many rules, so many layers of approval? Or, on the flip side, why is literally everything suddenly an app? Well, welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a century-long tug-of-war over exactly how institutions manage people. We are going to trace this fascinating evolution of organizational and administrative theory, going all the way from the rigid, clunky industrial machines of the past right up to the fluid digital networks we live in today.
Okay, let's dive into this. Here is our roadmap for today, broken down into 4 distinct phases. First, the machine, which is our classical era. Second, the human, marking the behavioral shift. Third, the customer, where we look at public administration. And finally, number 4, the network, our modern frontier.
Before we really get moving, I want you to just keep this one question in the back of your mind as we go through this explainer. Are you a cog or a collaborator? It sounds like a super simple question, right? But it actually sets the stakes for everything we're about to talk about. It perfectly frames how radically institutions have shifted their view of humanity over time. Because at the end of the day, the way an organization views you completely dictates how it manages you.
To give us a sense of where we're heading, let's lay out the timeline. We kick things off in the late 19th century during the Industrial Age. That's our classical era. Then, we hit a massive pivot in the 1930s with the behavioral shift. By the late 20th century, we run into some huge fundamental debates in public administration. And finally, we arrive at the 21st century, the digital era. It's a pretty massive journey of thought.
Section 1. The machine. The classical era, defined by structure, hierarchy, and strict control.
So back in this early era, organizations functioned purely as cold, highly efficient machines. And you were just a part of the mechanism. The architects of this era focused entirely on the physical body and the manual labor. You had Max Weber introducing bureaucracy. And actually, fun fact, bureaucracy wasn't a bad word back then. It just meant fixed rules and impersonality to ensure absolute stability. Then there's Frederick Taylor and his scientific management. This guy literally stalked factory floors with a stopwatch, timing workers down to the exact second to find the absolute one best way to do a task. Finally, Henri Fayol brought us administrative management, giving us 14 principles of management like unity of command, which just meant ensuring everyone had exactly one boss. The whole underlying logic here? They were desperately searching for the most efficient, rule-bound way for hands to move, assuming people only showed up for a paycheck.
Section 2. The human, the behavioral shift, focusing on psychology, motivation, and group dynamics.
Okay, so that classical machine model, it eventually hit a massive wall because it entirely ignored human emotion. Now, what's really interesting about this transition is the profound contrast that emerged. The old view was the economic man, this idea that workers are basically just coin-operated robots. But then, the famous Hawthorne Studies completely shattered this. Researchers actually dimmed the factory lights expecting productivity to drop. But it went up. Wait, what? Why? Well, it turns out because the workers simply felt seen and valued by the researchers observing them. This gave birth to the concept of the social man, proving that workers actually move for recognition and a sense of belonging. This was a real game changer. It proved that to get maximum efficiency, you couldn't just manage someone's hands. You had to understand the psychology of the human being.
This whole psychological awakening led to some groundbreaking frameworks, like Douglas McGregor's Theory X and Theory Y. Theory X assumes workers are inherently lazy and have to be relentlessly micromanaged and controlled. Sound familiar at all? Theory Y, on the other hand, assumes workers are naturally self-motivated, they actually seek out responsibility, and they genuinely want to do a good job. I challenge you to think about your current boss, or maybe a past one. Which theory do you think they operate under? When you couple this with Abraham Maslow's famous hierarchy of needs, the idea that we all have different levels of needs ranging from basic survival up to self-actualization, this completely revolutionized management. We went from strict top-down control to actually nurturing human potential.
Section 3. The customer, public administration, and exactly how the state serves the people.
Let's move along and see how this builds when we shift our focus away from private businesses and over to government, because there is a massive tug-of-war over how the state treats its citizens.
First up in this big governmental debate is the New Public Administration, or NPA. This is a philosophy that actively prioritizes social equity, proactive help for marginalized folks, and places ethics way above pure economy. Think of this as basically giving the government a heart. Proponents of NPA argued that it's simply not enough for a state to be an efficient machine. Government actually has a moral imperative to be fair. The focus here is heavily on social justice and ensuring that the most vulnerable populations are supported, even if, it costs a little more money to do so. But as always, the pendulum swings back in the other direction. Enter New Public Management, or NPM. This model shifts the focus to privatization, market competition, strict performance targets, and, fundamentally, treating the citizen as a customer. So the crucial point here is that NPM ruthlessly prioritizes efficiency. It's an approach that looks at that heart-driven NPA model and basically says, well, that's nice, but we have a budget to balance. It brings private sector tactics directly into the public sphere, aiming to squeeze out the absolute maximum value for every single taxpayer dollar spent.
The absolute core theme of New Public Management can be summed up in just 4 words: government as a business. Under this paradigm, the ultimate goal of the state is hitting those key performance indicators. When you go to renew your driver's license, the state doesn't just see a citizen, it sees a paying customer who expects fast, efficient, and cost-effective service. Much like you would expect from a fast food drive-thru or a massive online retailer.
Section 4. The network. The modern frontier, characterized by technology, collaboration, and purpose.
Today, we're moving well past that strict government as a business model, mostly because society now operates as a massive, interconnected digital ecosystem. So let's de-jargonize some of the alphabet soup of this modern frontier. First, we have New Public Governance, or NPG. This basically says the government can't do it all alone. Instead, it acts as a facilitator, working alongside private firms and NGOs to solve complex, quote-unquote, wicked problems like climate change. Next up is Digital Era Governments, DEG. This is where we are heading incredibly fast, using AI and big data to provide seamless, predictive services. It's all about reintegrating fragmented government systems so they can actually anticipate your needs. Finally, Public Value Management, PVM. This moves us beyond just balancing the budget. It tries to balance public value, legitimacy, and capability. Under PVM, success isn't just about efficiency. It's defined by creating a tangibly better society. The shared goal across all these modern models: leveraging technology and network ecosystems to truly collaborate.
And this cheat sheet brilliantly illustrates our entire journey today, bringing the whole shebang together. We started in the classical era, where the organization was seen as a machine, driven by money, with the main goal being efficiency. Then we shifted to the behavioral era, the organization as a family, driven by relationships, aiming for motivation. In government, we saw the NPA act as a shield for social justice, while NPM acted as a market, pushing hard for results and value. Today, in the NPG and DEG eras, the organization is a platform. It's driven by data and networks, and the ultimate goal is collaboration. It perfectly encapsulates how our understanding of management and of people has completely expanded over the last century.
As we wrap up this explainer, I want to leave you with one final, pretty provocative thought about our post-NPM, highly networked world. As these digital ecosystems evolve and predictive AI begins to seamlessly run government services and corporate administration, what is your role going to be? Will you just be a data point, a customer, or will you be a vital collaborator in the network? Take some time to really reflect on your place in this incredible evolution. Keep learning, keep questioning, and thank you so much for joining me.